The greatest mistake most people make when dealing with rivals is believing that victory begins when they confront another person. It does not. Victory begins long before that, in the private conversations you have with yourself. Every battle that is lost in the mind eventually becomes a defeat in reality. If someone can provoke your emotions, dictate your reactions, or force you into impulsive decisions, they have already gained control over you without lifting a finger. Your greatest strength is not physical power, intelligence, or influence. It is the ability to remain calm when others expect chaos, patient when others become desperate, and focused when everyone else is distracted. Human beings are emotional creatures pretending to be logical. Fear, pride, jealousy, anger, and insecurity silently guide countless decisions every day. Most conflicts are won not because one person is smarter, but because one person remains emotionally disciplined while the other loses control. The individual who speaks less during conflict often learns more. The one who observes instead of reacting discovers weaknesses that remain invisible to everyone else. Emotional control creates psychological distance, allowing you to see situations clearly while others become trapped inside their own feelings. Imagine two people facing the same challenge. One immediately reacts with anger after hearing criticism. Their mind races with thoughts of revenge, proving themselves right, and defeating the other person. Every decision they make becomes emotional instead of strategic. The second person hears the same criticism, but remains silent. They ask themselves why those words were spoken, what the other person hopes to gain, and whether a response is even necessary. While the first person is consumed by emotion, the second is collecting information. Information is always more valuable than emotional satisfaction because it leads to better decisions. People often mistake silence for weakness. In reality, silence is one of the strongest psychological tools available. When you refuse to react immediately, you force others to reveal more than they intended. Most individuals become uncomfortable when they cannot predict your next move. They continue talking, explaining, defending themselves, and exposing their true intentions. The less you reveal about your emotional state, the harder it becomes for anyone to manipulate you. Another important truth is that confidence is measured by consistency, not intensity. Many people believe confidence means speaking loudly, winning every argument, or proving others wrong. Genuine confidence is remaining composed when challenged. It is resisting the temptation to defend yourself against every accusation. It is understanding that your value does not decrease because someone misunderstands you. Those who constantly seek validation become prisoners of other people's opinions. Those who trust themselves become difficult to influence because their confidence comes from within, instead of from external approval. Your emotions are like valuable currency. Spend them carelessly, and you become psychologically weak. Invest them wisely, and they become a source of strength. Every unnecessary argument drains your focus. Every impulsive reaction gives someone insight into your weaknesses. Every emotional outburst teaches observant people exactly how to control you in the future. Self-discipline protects your mind from becoming predictable. There will always be individuals who deliberately attempt to provoke you. They may insult you, question your abilities, spread rumors, or create situations designed to make you lose control. Their objective is rarely to discover the truth. Their objective is to force you into making mistakes that benefit them. The moment you understand this, you stop viewing every insult as an attack that requires a response. Instead, you begin seeing these moments as tests of your discipline. Passing the test strengthens your position. Failing it hands power to someone else. Mental strength also requires patience. Modern life encourages immediate reactions. Messages demand instant replies. Criticism demands instant defense. Opportunities appear to demand instant decisions. Yet many of life's greatest mistakes are born from unnecessary urgency. Time reveals hidden motives, exposes deception, and weakens emotional intensity. A delayed response is often a wiser response because it allows reason to replace impulse. Patience is not passive. It is active self-control that gives your judgment room to develop. Develop the habit of observing before acting. Notice patterns in people's behavior. Instead of listening only to their words, people reveal themselves through repetition. Their habits, emotional triggers, ambitions, and fears become visible to those who pay attention. Observation creates understanding, and understanding creates influence. The person who understands human nature rarely needs to force outcomes because they already know how people are likely to behave. The strongest mind is not the one that never experiences emotion. It is the one that refuses to become enslaved by emotion. Fear may appear, but it does not dictate action. Anger may arise, but it does not control decisions. Doubt may whisper, but it does not determine direction. Emotional mastery is not about becoming cold or heartless. It is about ensuring that your values and long-term goals remain stronger than your temporary feelings. When you achieve this level of discipline, you become difficult to manipulate, difficult to intimidate, and even more difficult to defeat. Because your greatest source of power comes from complete control over yourself. Most people spend their lives trying to convince others that they are intelligent, capable, powerful, or worthy of respect. They believe that if they explain themselves enough, defend every decision, and constantly prove their value, people will eventually recognize their importance. Yet human psychology rarely works this way. The harder you chase approval, the more you communicate dependence. The more you seek validation, the easier it becomes for others to influence your emotions and decisions. True psychological strength begins when your focus shifts from earning approval to shaping perception through consistent behavior. Perception is one of the most powerful forces in every social interaction. People rarely judge you solely by facts. Instead, they interpret your confidence, your composure, your body language, your consistency, and your ability to remain calm under pressure. Before they know your abilities, they form opinions based on what they observe. These impressions become difficult to change because the human mind naturally looks for evidence that confirms its first conclusions. This is why controlling perception is often more effective than trying to explain yourself after misunderstandings occur. One of the biggest mistakes people make is revealing too much too soon. They explain every plan, every ambition, every frustration, and every fear to anyone willing to listen. They assume transparency automatically builds trust. In reality, unnecessary exposure often creates opportunities for criticism, envy, and manipulation. Not everyone who asks questions deserves complete answers. Wise individuals understand that information has value, and valuable things are not distributed carelessly. Speaking less forces people to observe your actions instead of judging your promises. Your actions should become your strongest argument. Anyone can describe future success, but only disciplined action creates lasting credibility. When your work consistently matches your words, you no longer need to convince others of your ability. People naturally begin forming positive perceptions because your behavior repeatedly confirms your character. Consistency quietly builds influence, while excessive explanation often weakens it. Another important principle is understanding the difference between reputation and identity. Your identity belongs to you. It is built from your values, discipline, knowledge, and daily habits. Reputation, however, exists in the minds of other people. Since you cannot completely control what others think, Trying to manage every opinion becomes an endless source of frustration. Instead of exhausting yourself correcting every misunderstanding, invest your energy in strengthening your identity. Over time, a strong identity naturally produces a stronger reputation because people eventually notice consistent behavior. Confidence also shapes perception more than perfection. Many people postpone opportunities because they fear making mistakes or appearing imperfect. Ironically, hesitation often creates a weaker impression than honest imperfection. Individuals who make decisions calmly, accept responsibility, and continue improving are generally viewed as more capable than those who endlessly overthink every action. Confidence is not pretending to know everything. It is trusting yourself enough to adapt when circumstances change. People also pay close attention to emotional stability. Imagine two individuals receiving harsh criticism. One immediately becomes defensive, argues emotionally, and attempts to justify every action. The other listens carefully, thanks the person for their perspective, reflects privately, and responds only after thoughtful consideration. Even if both individuals possess equal talent, the second person is more likely to earn respect because emotional composure communicates inner security. Others instinctively associate calm behavior with competence. Scarcity also influences perception. Human beings naturally value what appears selective and disciplined. When someone constantly seeks attention, approval, or recognition, their presence often loses impact. Conversely, individuals who speak with intention, choose their commitments carefully, and avoid unnecessary drama often appear more influential. This is not about pretending to be mysterious. It is about recognizing that discipline creates value. Every unnecessary word, promise, or emotional reaction reduces your psychological leverage. Another overlooked principle is refusing to let criticism define your direction. There will always be people who misunderstand your intentions, question your abilities, or underestimate your potential. If every opinion changes your behavior, you become impossible to trust even by yourself. A person who constantly adjusts their identity to satisfy others eventually loses clarity about who they really are. Strong individuals listen to constructive criticism without surrendering their purpose. They evaluate feedback objectively, improve where necessary, and ignore opinions rooted only in negativity or jealousy. The way you treat other people also shapes perception more than most realize. Respect does not require weakness, and confidence does not require arrogance. Those who constantly belittle others in order to appear superior often reveal insecurity rather than strength. Genuine influence comes from treating people fairly while maintaining clear boundaries. You can remain respectful without allowing manipulation. You can be kind without becoming easily controlled. This balance creates a reputation that is both approachable and formidable. Patience strengthens perception as well. Many people desperately want immediate recognition for their efforts. They become discouraged when results are delayed, or when others receive attention first. Yet lasting influence is rarely built overnight. It develops through years of disciplined action, repeated reliability, and quiet excellence. Those who continue improving, regardless of temporary recognition, eventually become impossible to ignore because their results speak louder than their ambitions ever could. Ultimately, the strongest perception you can create is that of someone who cannot be easily manipulated by praise or criticism. Compliments should not make you complacent, and insults should not make you abandon your direction. When your decisions are guided by principles instead of public opinion, people begin to recognize a rare quality: stability. Stability inspires trust, and trust creates influence. The person who quietly demonstrates competence, emotional discipline, and unwavering consistency often commands more respect than the one who constantly demands to be noticed. In the long run, people remember how you carried yourself far more than how often you tried to convince them of your worth. Every person has strengths they proudly display and weaknesses they try to hide. The difference between an average thinker and a strategic thinker is the ability to recognize these patterns without becoming distracted by appearances. Many people judge others by confidence, status, or words, but true understanding comes from observing behavior over time. Human nature is remarkably consistent. Habits reveal priorities, emotional reactions expose insecurities, and repeated choices uncover motivations. The individual who patiently studies these patterns gains insight that impulsive people never notice. One of the greatest mistakes you can make is assuming that every opponent thinks the same way you do. People make decisions based on different fears, desires, and experiences. Some are driven by recognition, others by security, and many by the need to protect their pride. When you understand what motivates someone, their actions become easier to predict. Prediction is one of the most valuable advantages in any competition because it allows you to prepare instead of merely react. Paid close attention to emotional triggers. Everyone has situations that disrupt their judgment. Some become impatient when ignored. Others become reckless when praised. Some cannot tolerate criticism, while others become overconfident after small victories. These reactions often repeat themselves because people rarely recognize their own patterns. A calm observer notices these tendencies and avoids being pulled into emotional battles. Instead of reacting impulsively, they respond with careful timing and thoughtful decisions. Patience is essential because weaknesses rarely appear during comfortable moments. Pressure reveals character. Challenges expose discipline. Unexpected setbacks uncover hidden fears. When circumstances become difficult, people often abandon the image they carefully created and reveal who they truly are. This is why strategic individuals avoid rushing to conclusions. They allow time and pressure to uncover information that words alone cannot provide. At the same time, remember that your greatest responsibility is managing your own weaknesses. It is easy to focus on the flaws of others while ignoring your own habits. Pride, impatience, anger, or the desire to always be right can quietly undermine even the best strategy. Self-awareness is a form of strength because it prevents predictable mistakes. When you understand your own emotional patterns, you become far less vulnerable to manipulation. Another important principle is resisting the temptation to exploit people through cruelty or deception. While understanding psychology can help you anticipate behavior, lasting success is built on wisdom, integrity, and disciplined judgment, not on harming others. Strategic thinking should help you avoid unnecessary conflict, protect your goals, and make better decisions. Influence gained through trust and consistency is far more durable than influence gained through intimidation or manipulation. People naturally reveal valuable information when they understood. Understood. Listening carefully often teaches you more than speaking. Instead of preparing your next response while someone else is talking, pay attention to the details they repeat, the subjects they avoid, and the emotions behind their words. Over time, these observations create a clearer picture than any direct question ever could. In every challenge, the person who combines patience, observation, emotional discipline, and self-awareness gains a quiet advantage. They do not depend on luck or impulse. They make decisions based on understanding rather than assumption. While others are distracted by appearances and emotions, they remain focused on reality. That ability to see clearly, think carefully, and act deliberately becomes one of the greatest forms of mental strength, allowing them to navigate conflict with confidence while remaining true to their own principles. The people who achieve lasting success are rarely the fastest to act. They are the ones who understand the value of timing. Patience is not the absence of action, it is the discipline to wait until action becomes meaningful. Many opportunities are lost because people mistake urgency for importance. They rush into arguments, make emotional decisions, reveal their intentions too early, or pursue short-term satisfaction at the expense of long-term results. A strategic mind recognizes that every move has consequences, and the best move is often the one made at exactly the right moment. Silence is one of the most underestimated forms of strength. In a world where everyone feels pressured to respond immediately, explain every decision, and share every opinion, the person who chooses silence gains an advantage. Silence creates space for observation. It allows emotions to settle before decisions are made. It encourages others to speak more, often revealing information they never intended to share. When you remain calm and measured, you learn more about people than they learn about you. Information is valuable, and silence is one of the most effective ways to collect it. There will be moments when others try to provoke you. They may criticize your ideas, question your abilities, or deliberately attempt to trigger an emotional reaction. Their goal is often not to discover the truth, but to disrupt your judgment. If you respond with anger or frustration, you surrender control of the situation. However, when you remain composed, you force them to confront someone who cannot be easily manipulated. Emotional discipline makes you difficult to predict, and unpredictability often discourages those who rely on provoking reactions to gain influence. Strategic action also requires knowing when not to engage. Not every disagreement deserves your attention, and not every challenge requires a response. Many conflicts disappear when they are denied the energy they seek. Wise individuals choose their battles carefully, because they understand that time, attention, and focus are limited resources. Every unnecessary argument steals energy from goals that truly matter. By protecting your attention, you protect your progress. Another powerful habit is preparing quietly. Many people announce every ambition before taking the first step. They seek encouragement, approval, or recognition long before results exist. Yet speaking too soon can create unnecessary pressure and invite doubt from others. Quiet preparation allows your skills to grow without distraction. When your work finally becomes visible, people notice achievement instead of promises. Results have a way of commanding respect without demanding attention. Consistency is equally important. One brilliant decision cannot compensate for a pattern of careless behavior. Success is usually the result of small, disciplined actions repeated over time. Daily learning, careful observation, thoughtful planning, and emotional control gradually build a foundation that is difficult to shake. Others may focus on dramatic moments, but lasting influence is created through steady habits rather than occasional bursts of effort. It is also important to recognize that true strength is measured by self-control. Anyone can react when emotions are high, but not everyone can pause, reflect, and choose the response that serves their long-term purpose. The ability to delay gratification, resist impulsive decisions, and remain focused despite distractions separates disciplined individuals from those driven by emotion. Every time you choose patience over panic, understanding over assumption, and purpose over pride, you strengthen your character. Ultimately, mental victory belongs to those who think beyond the present moment. They understand that every conversation, every decision, and every challenge is part of a larger journey. Instead of chasing immediate satisfaction, they invest in lasting growth. They allow silence to sharpen their awareness, patience to improve their judgment, and disciplined action to shape their future. Over time, This approach earns something far more valuable than temporary success. It builds resilience, credibility, and quiet confidence that cannot be easily shaken by circumstances or the opinions of others.